The next time you reach for the tap, think about this. This precious liquid is billions of years old. In all that time, not a new drop of water has been added to the Earth's finite water supply. And here's the rub. Every day, more and more thirsty people depend on that fixed quantity of water for their daily needs. In North Texas, where droughts are a part of life, these basic facts have profound repercussions. A growing population, a heavy reliance on limited surface waters, and a dwindling supply of water from underground aquifers have called for truly creative thinking about how we can all have enough water in the years ahead. The result is a brand new way of gleaning usable water from the bounty that nature has already provided. This is the story of the George W. Shannon Wetlands Water Recycling Facility. This groundbreaking water source is reusing and recycling water in a way that benefits the water supply of an urban metropolis and the environment and ecology of Greater Texas. Located about 90 miles southeast of Fort Worth, this man-made wetland was created through a partnership between the Tarrant Regional Water District and the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. It's one of the first projects of its kind in the nation.
When we started looking at this potential project as our option for future water supply, we went and looked in other areas to see if this wheel had already been created before. And as it turns out, there are a lot of use of wetlands throughout the nation. This was the first time anybody was ever looking at utilizing wetlands as a direct water supply component.
It's a new way to think about getting water supplies in an environmentally sound manner.
There are other ways of getting water, of course, and the district was looking at them all in the early 90s when it was updating its long-range water supply plan. The wetlands reuse idea emerged out of discussions that included the usual strategies of importing water from other regions or building a new reservoir.
Recognizing that it could take 30 years to construct that reservoir, the district was in a position where they wanted to make sure that they had adequate supply of water between now and that 30-year period. And so the project of diverting water out of the Trinity provided an opportunity to develop that water in a timely manner. A major consideration in looking at the Trinity River as a supply is looking at the dependability and the fact that that is a water supply that would be sustainable over time. Flow in the Trinity results largely from return flows from wastewater treatment plants in the Metroplex. So there's an assurance that there's always going to be a certain amount of water in the Trinity that could be used to augment the water supply.
That guaranteed water supply made the Trinity an obvious choice for meeting our future water needs. But it wasn't as simple as taking water from the river and putting it in a lake.
When the concept for utilization of wetlands for water supply came kind of to the forefront for the water district back in '92, we didn't have a real good answer of whether or not they would work. In theory, it was a great idea.
To see if the concept would work, the Water District constructed a miniature wetland system, about 2.5 acres in size, and put it to the test. For 8 years, they studied everything they could think of.
We really kind of put it through a ringer just to be sure that it was something we could depend on.
In that process, we were able to determine and prove that the wetlands concept worked, and it worked well. And from that, we decided that that really should be our next water supply.
The benefits of this project have turned out to be plentiful for water supply, for the surrounding environment, and for wildlife that thrive in a wetland ecosystem. Let's look at how this project is so successful and how it is profoundly influencing attitudes and the way water resources are managed across the state of Texas and beyond.
Wetlands are a critical habitat. Historically, man viewed wetlands as something that was just a haven for mosquitoes. They were often referred to as just nasty swamps. The land was very devalued, and wetlands were historically drained for farmland or drained for mosquito control or drained for urban expansion. It was our goal as an agency on this particular piece of property to restore a functioning wetland ecosystem.
blending the Parks and Wildlife goal of habitat restoration with the Water District's goal of developing a new water supply made this property an ideal location for the Shannon Wetland. It sits right between the Richland Chambers Reservoir and the Trinity River. And since a project like this had never been done before, the Water District really had to do its homework to obtain a water rights permit. The key issues were to show other entities that the district's water rights permit would not impair their water supplies, and to show that environmental flows would be maintained.
But we arbitrarily agreed that we would not use more than 70% of the water that is attributable to our system. So from that then it gave some of the folks a little better feeling also that we weren't trying to just take everything we could, that we were actually going to leave some in the river.
So how does a wetland system actually work? How does it clean water from the Trinity River to the point where it is cleaner than the water flowing in a lot of our creeks?
Wetlands naturally have the ability to purify water.
The reason that the wetlands work is because of what grows in wetlands. It's a natural function of a plant community to uptake nutrients out of the soil, or if they're aquatic plants, out of the water. We really are kind of harnessing that natural ability in this system to serve the role of a filtration system for the Trinity River water before it's introduced into our reservoir systems.
And so our initial goal that we established for this project was that we wanted to make sure that the water that we treated coming out of the wetlands into the reservoir was as good or better than the natural watershed delivered.
The Water District did look at conventional treatment systems to remove sediment and nutrients, but using nature to do the job doesn't consume as much energy and makes a lot of sense. Here's how the system is set up.
The intake and pump station at the Trinity picks the water up out of the river itself, and it pumps it to our sedimentation basin. The purpose of sedimentation basin is to let the water sit basically for a period of time. By sitting still, it lets the larger particles of dirt fall out. From the sedimentation basin, it is then gravity flowed to our wetland cells. The goal there is through the vegetation, you're providing both the filtration with the dense vegetation, and in addition, the plants will utilize some of the nutrients, the phosphorus and the nitrogen.
The wetlands average from 12 to 18 inches in depth. Strategically placed deep water zones help disperse the water's flow through the entire system.
We kind of have our last cell is a polishing cell. Most of the nutrient removal has occurred by the time it gets to cell 4.
Frequent tests are conducted on the water flowing through the wetlands to make sure the system is working properly.
We test the water quality out here pretty rigorously. We take water measurements as far as flow, dissolved oxygen, temperature, pH, the types of things that you can measure when you're on site. We do those 3 times a week. And then weekly, we'll come out and we'll pull samples to do analysis on lab parameters, sediment, nutrients, those types of things that can't be determined as you stand here and look at the water.
This is our inflow water that's coming out of the settling basin into the front of 1. This is the water after it's gone through wet cell 1. As you can tell, there's quite a bit of clarity that the vegetation and the detention time has settled out.
This revolutionary project benefits the environment just as much as it benefits the water supply. It completely changes the landscape, and the man-made wetlands themselves create a stable new habitat for numerous species of wildlife.
We're providing high-quality habitat for many species of reptiles, amphibians, all types of bird species, from wading birds to our little sandpipers that feed up on our mudflats.
It's really telling to be here before the project was built, because what's behind me now is a pretty lush environment. What was here before didn't have a lot of value from a habitat standpoint. Environmentally, it was kind of a void, a lot of ragweed, a lot of poison ivy. This project provides water that completely changed the ecosystem out here.
The Shannon Wetlands maximize the use of land and water resources in a way that is 100% environmentally sustainable. Its location near a reservoir that is already used to supply water to Tarrant County means very little infrastructure had to be built to turn this project into a viable water supply.
A way I like to describe it to people is the nice thing about our wetlands project is we already have a bathtub. We already have the place to store the water. We don't have to build the dam. We don't have to build a reservoir. We don't have to build an intake. We don't have to build the pipeline. All of that infrastructure is already in place. All we had to do was just create the water supply. The ability to get back to Fort Worth was already in place.
At full capacity, the wetlands will allow the water district to supplement the yield from Richland Chambers by 30%, another 63,000 acre-feet per year. That's 55 million gallons per day. A similar project is planned at nearby Cedar Creek Reservoir. Both projects will help the water district meet its customer needs through 2020.
What it allowed us to do was put a water supply online in a short period of time and give us time to really look at the best alternatives for future needs and the future sources for those needs.
We're in the business of water supply, which historically has always been building more reservoirs. And by all means, this project won't eliminate that need, but it does push into the future the necessity to construct another reservoir.
In fact, the groundbreaking nature of this wetland cannot be overstated. In the state of Texas and across the country, water providers are looking to the Shannon Wetlands as a model for designing ways to meet their own future water needs.
We were the first one in the state to apply for this kind of operation from a water supply standpoint. Since it had never been done before, the state had to come up with a process whereby they could evaluate these kind of projects. In doing so, we kind of laid the groundwork for other entities in the state.
The Shannon Wetlands have created a new water use climate in Texas, and it's leading to a more efficient use of our existing supplies. That's something we can all feel good about. And as all sorts of Texans have already discovered, the wetlands are a place for students where learning is fun.
The wetlands provide us an outdoor laboratory. We use these wetlands to educate children from kindergarten age all the way into college seniors.
When the babies hatch out of the eggs, the little babies make a noise. They go, yo, yo, yo.
We can get kids out of the classroom, get them in the field, get some mud on their hands, and let them understand the importance of these wetland ecosystems and how these ecosystems benefit them.
In addition to being an outdoor laboratory for school kids, teachers, and university folks, the wetlands are also used for recreational purposes.
This is public land, and these wetlands are open for public recreation. We have two major forms of recreation. We have our consumptive recreation, such as waterfowl hunting in the wintertime, as well as our non-consumptive users that primarily are bird watchers. The area is rapidly becoming a hotspot for bird watchers.
And then all the way on the other end of that spectrum is the effect that this project has on the 1.6 million people that the water district serves. And it brings a real sense of responsibility, because this is not just about something that's pretty and the plants look good, but it's about water quality that they depend on.
Indeed, this new water source is far-reaching in all its effects. From its capacity for stabilizing water resources, to housing scores of wildlife species, to showing others how they too can create such a project, the George W. Shannon Wetlands are exceeding all expectations.
One of the key benefits is augmenting the district's water supply in order to meet its customers' demands. In addition to that, it certainly provides benefits to the environment, provides educational benefits, and it also provides recreational benefits.
It's about the people that it touches, from me all the way up to folks 90 miles away that are going to end up drinking it.